mediocre in everything. Oh.
No, tell them how you really feel.
They're literally average in every category.
So we're getting ready to go live here for this cold open, and Sam is muttering to me, thinking we're not on yet. Sens are mediocre in literally everything they do, which is not true because they made the playoffs for the first time in 8 years.
Top 16 gets you in.
Yeah, and they actually had a really good home record. We're going to talk about that.
Let's
we have 2 great guests today. Let's get to it. The other 31 Ottawa Senators version. Julian McKenzie from The Athletic. Gord Wilson from the team's radio broadcast. Luds, Sam, me. Let's go.
Get ready, boys.
This is the DLS Stars podcast on Tuesday, August 19th. As you can see from the thumbnail, it is Ottawa Senators Day here on the other 31. We're chugging right along. In fact, before I even introduce everybody, we are approaching the halfway point of our 31-team series. We are on number 15 today because we're doing 31.
16 is count the Stars, so 31.
Well, no, Stars will be 32.
16 to 32, that's half.
We're almost halfway there. Tomorrow, when we have our Pittsburgh Penguins show, it'll be 16. We'll have passed halfway.
So halfway through the show,
we lost
we'll
Luds already.
Halfway.
Sam Nessler, Craig Ludwig up in Wisconsin. I'm Owen Newkirk. Elijah Smith, our producer. And as Luds is all ready to tell us to go take a hike, I want to bring on our first guest. He's from The Athletic. He is the Senators beat writer for The Athletic, and he is Julian McKenzie. Julian, thanks for joining. Welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me, guys. How are you guys doing?
Doing very well. I wanted to talk a lot about the roster in this, but you just did a good piece of reporting about a week ago that I was reading this morning about the new arena, and I believe you were attributed to a couple of different publications for the sale of the land at LeBreton Flats. So for Stars fans that maybe haven't followed, this has been a really long saga, as you are, of course, very well aware. But you had some interesting nuggets on the cost of the land and how much they paid. What does this mean for Ottawa and for the Senators to take one step closer to trying to get a new downtown arena?
So the biggest thing for the Senators, a team that in terms of the revenues and operation costs, they're not among the highest in the league. A team that is kind of in between like the Montreal Canadiens and Toronto Maple Leafs in terms of location. And for even American cities like Boston or New York, if you want to not pay the high prices you might pay at your own arena versus going to Ottawa where it's a lot cheaper, Ottawa kind of gets looked at as like a little brother, like the little brother syndrome, how it is for certain smaller market teams. I think the organization sees having an arena closer to their downtown core as a way to reach more of their fan base, especially at a time where, you know, they make the playoffs for the first time in the last 8 years. New ownership is in place with Michael Andlauer. A lot of fans are feeling that the organization is taking steps in the right direction. Some of the star players that they have on their team in Brady Tkachuk and Tim Stützle and Jake Sanderson as well. Like things actually objectively look like they're on the up. And the next question obviously is when we'll actually see shovels in the ground for this arena, and I know there's been reports out there with close to either 30 million or 35 million for the sale price. We'll see how much it'll cost for getting that entire arena together, when it'll happen. It seems like it's something that I think even the Senators still have a lot of questions about, considering the decontamination process that has to happen on the ground and some of the different studies they have to do on transit and getting people in and out of the arena, whether through public transportation or the congestion they might have to deal with people driving into the area, and not just for people in the immediate area of Ottawa. I'm not sure how proficient you guys are in geography with that area, but there's Gatineau, which is a part of Quebec, which is kind of north of the Ottawa River. There's a whole bunch of Francophone fans that the organization wants to tap into. Having this arena gets them closer to their fans who are closer in the city, and also allows them to kind of bring in more fans that are north of where they're at, even if they're in a completely different province, but much closer to their base compared to Montreal Canadiens fans, who we know they have fans the world over, but are more likely to tap into fans in Quebec. So this is a really big deal for them. The biggest question is when we're actually going to see this arena come to fruition.
That was kind of, hey, Julian, usually this is what Owen does, is he finds some way to ruin my first question to any of our guests. But this actually plays into a little bit of one thing I wanted to ask you.
Let's do it,
Will there
lads.
be any current players that play in that building?
That is a great question.
Ooh.
That
That's
is a
all we do
great
here,
question.
Julian. I mean, that's our
That's a great
tagline. That's
question.
all we do here.
Let me tell you something, because it's out there that the Sens expect to be at the Canadian Tire Center for the next 5 years. But it sounds like they might only get a better sense of how long they'll actually be there like next year. Next year, they'll get a better sense of how long that'll all take. So right now, I mean, if you're Brady Tkachuk and you got, 3 years left on your deal, if things go well, you sign him to another long-term deal, maybe he's there for the opening. Tim Stützle and Jake Sanderson are two other guys who are signed long-term. There could be a world where they're there for that building. I think if this Senators team continues to be on the up and up and they consistently build winning teams, there is a world where the star players at the top of this franchise are there to see it open. I think that all depends on how well they play, though, and some of those contracts, and obviously how long it takes for the building to be built. I'd be surprised. I mean, this is a very early estimate. I'd be surprised if we saw a new arena within the next 5 years.
Let me ask you one follow-up before I let Sam jump in, Julian, is this has been a long ongoing thing, and that's why I wanted to start with it, because it is not only current in the news, but also something that it feels like it's been a decade or more that this has been happening. And Luds, you know the logistical issues of getting to Canada from the airport in Ottawa when you've traveled there with the Stars broadcast in the past. And, you hear a lot of people talk about places like Denver, how far the airport is from downtown and getting to, in and out of there. Getting to Canada, to Canadian Tire Center sounds like it's not the easiest thing for people that are coming from the downtown area. My follow-up, though, is there are now, CTC's been there a long time. So is it as obvious of a slam dunk having a downtown arena that it seems like most people are saying? Or is there some give and take about the current building versus what a new building near, west of Parliament Hill that would be?
Yeah, I think for anything in life, you're going to have people who agree and disagree. Like in the last few days, there's been like a small vocal minority of people who live close to the Canadian Tire Center who like not having to, go through this long trek to get to an arena. And now they're wondering like, oh man, we live west of the city. We have to go along the highway. What's it going to be like for us when we have to go downtown and get to the arena? And some of the concerns I mentioned earlier about if you're going to that space, like what's it going to be like in terms of traffic? Is public transit in Ottawa able to, sustain all these people who are all of a sudden going to want to go a couple minutes west of Parliament, right? Like, I think there are a bunch of questions that the Ottawa Senators, my understanding is they are aware they're out there and they're trying to figure out what's best for that area on top of trying to build on top of it. But my sense is that an arena in that part of town is better versus having it completely west of where everything is. Like, not going to completely dox where I live, but it takes me about 20-25 minutes, and I don't even live directly downtown. On a game day, like, it takes me time to get to the arena, and there's traffic, and it's a lot of one-way traffic and a whole bunch of people trying to go to that way. And even in Canada, like, no shade to it, but there's not that much to do around that arena there as well. Like, there's like a whole outlet mall district that's like, you drive a little like bridge over and you're there. But like nowadays we're seeing so many more of these arenas where you have the entertainment district like built in, right? So, and I think that's what the Senators at least want to do with whatever venue they build at LeBreton Flats.
All right, Sam. Thanks for letting me have
I'm
a
in
follow-up.
now?
You're
Okay.
in.
All right. Tag me in. All right, Julian, we haven't even talked about actual hockey yet, 10 minutes into the show, and you've already mentioned Brady Tkachuk's name 3 times. So let's just jump right into Brady Tkachuk. I think I'm a massive Brady Tkachuk fan, and that was even before what him and Matthew did at the Four Nations. After that, even more so, and everyone was on board to see him in the playoffs this year. Just tell me about Brady Tkachuk, what he means to this team, and his impact when he did finally crack that playoff this year.
He's like the heart and soul of that team. Like, as he goes, so does the team. Tim Stützle is probably the most talented player on that team. Jake Sanderson's their number one defenseman, and I think he'll get more respect as he gets better as a player. But Brady Tkachuk, as a top-line forward who plays the powered forward style, and he battled some injuries throughout this year, but still found ways to be effective in the playoffs. This is a guy who has so many fans around the league who hate him, and there's a lot of reasons to hate a guy who plays at his style. But if he was on their team tomorrow, they'd love him. Like, yes. That's me just being objective. Like, if the Dallas Stars had Brady Tkachuk on their team right now, they'd love this guy because of the passion that he plays with and the power forward style that he has. Like,
Lutz, how much would you give up for Brady Tkachuk on the Stars right now?
I'll take his dad right now.
Oh my God. He's a good player. I'll give him this. Like, I think Brady Tkachuk as a player for the Ottawa Senators, for what they need, he fits exactly what they need. And it's been really fascinating to see his star rise in such a small market. And I get that having the Tkachuk name plays into that, but I think it's been really interesting to see how he deals with us in the media, how from the Four Nations, he's been doing so much more media. Now he shares the cover of NHL 26 with his brother. It's been really interesting to watch from a distance how more and more people are latching on to his style of play, even if he doesn't play in their market.
How much do you credit the Tkachuks for how successful the Four Nations was? Because that tournament was, I think, blew everything out of the water of what people expected. And I feel like a lot of that has to do with not just the crazy fights that they did in that one game, but the overall impact and how they basically dragged their team into the fight and made it some of the most intense hockey we've seen in a long time.
People still talk about that game with the 3 fights. Like, it's crazy. I don't think anyone had high expectations for the Four Nations going in. And then that game between Canada and the States occurs at the same time as the NBA All-Star festivities, mind you. And that's all anyone wanted to talk about after that weekend. And even after the tournament ends, where Connor McDavid scores an overtime winner, and that should be talked about as I think what it is too is that, like, we know for Connor McDavid's legacy, just as hockey people, like, winning a Four Nations tournament is not going to put him on more Mount Rushmores. Like, that's not what he's chasing. But the fact that in an exhibition tournament, we are able to kind of hang on some high octane moments in an event that not many people had expectations for, and the Tkachuks are at the center of that, they deserve a lot of credit for getting a lot more people to care about a tournament like that.
All right, we're going to jump a little early on here, Elijah. Let's do a quick ad break because I want to get into a lot more with Julian, but we need to not go way past it. So up next, more about the Sens and the Stars with Julian right here on DLLS.
Finances can be messy and confusing. Did you know that, Owen?
Tell me about it.
Tell me about it. Monarch Money can act like your personal CFO, though, and help you out along the way, giving you full visibility and control so you can stop earning and start growing, just like Lutz is pointing to. It's more than just your average budgeting app. Monarch Money is a complete financial command center, gives you the full view of your accounts, investments, and goals all in one place to make it super simple. Don't just manage your money. Start building wealth with 50% off your first year. Track your spending, savings, investments, all effortlessly so you can focus on what matters most, making your biggest life goals a reality, because without a clear financial picture, those dreams can feel out of reach. Monarch Money makes managing money simple even for the busiest of lives. Get control of your overall finances with Monarch Money. Use code DLS at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That is 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code DLLS.
You know, it's time to talk about game time. I'm going to talk about vacation time because I'm going to miss a couple shows around Labor Day. Luds, you know all about PTO after last week.
Luds and Sam Gone Wild.
Yeah, I can't wait to see what you guys do on the
studio
show together in person. without any structure at all. We'll see what happens. But why am I talking about this? It's because I just used Game Time for the first time myself. We've been talking about Game Time, but I used it. I wanted to get tickets to a Boston Red Sox game, and I found an incredible deal easily on the Game Time app without actually having to do a whole lot of work. And it was easy to find. It was easy to see with Seat Views what I was getting. And I got, look at that QR code down there. The DLLS, not QR code, sorry, the promo code. I got $20 off.
Yep.
The first time I used it, it was easy to sign up. So go to the website, gametime.co, or just download the app. Use Game Time. Terms apply, but if you use DLLS, you'll get $20 off. And of course, if you download Game Time today, Sam, what time is it?
Game time.
Perfect.
Time to talk to Julian.
All right, Julian's back on. Luds, you're up.
What a great ad.
Yeah. You know, Julian, I don't want to make this the Brady Tkachuk show or segment again, but I do want to ask you about what you think of his maturation as a player, from a player to a leader, because I did think early on in his career, sometimes it was a clown act. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I think he was trying to establish himself, be that leader of the team. And I feel, and, you know, not being able to watch him play every night like you guys do, I just feel that every game he's gotten better and understands the timing and the moments in the game, when to be, you know, a certain player versus another one.
Yeah, I think that's a good observation, because there's been moments in the past where he hasn't necessarily done the right thing, and maybe his emotions, he wears them on his sleeve, and he's never going to go away from that. But sometimes it kind of gets overused a little bit. Like, think of like at the end of games when the Sens are losing and he decides he wants to pick a fight. That happens a lot. He's very much easy pickings for stuff like that. But I think what has helped with this team is, especially in years past, they had the offensive talent. They just didn't kind of emphasize enough on the defensive side. And I think what they ended up doing last year with getting Travis Green in as head coach, who wanted the team to be better defensively. And I'll say this isn't something that's just on Brady Tkachuk. I think that's something that entire core had to kind of grow up and mature with as well. Like, Brady Tkachuk is in his mid-20s. Tim Stützle's a little bit younger. Jake Sanderson is just turned 23 years old. There's a lot of maturing that has to be done for that young core. And I think they took a big step, not just in them making the playoffs, but if you look under the hood, the fact that they significantly improved defensively. And on top of that, they had good goaltending too to get them there. But I think the fact that they committed to that side of the game, that plays everything into why they were successful last year.
So we were talking about Canadian Tire Center as far as the logistics of where it exists, building a new building, all that stuff. But I want to actually talk about the building itself for a minute, because last year obviously was an important year for the Sens, right? 7-year playoff drought snapped. Team, I'm sure, not happy to go down 3-0 to Toronto, but then made it a series. It was very entertaining. And as you talked about, Julian, change of ownership. He changes the GM. He then changes the coach after one season. Travis Green gets ready for year 2 now. And I couldn't help but notice that the Sens home record took a big step in the right direction. And I looked this up, they had their best home record in their last 20 seasons. They had 57 points in 41 games. It's a .695 point percentage. It was tied for 8th best in the league last year. The club record was set in 2005-06 with 61 points, and that's the last time they've had anything close to that. Like, it just hasn't been that great. So you're talking about a team that made the playoffs for the first time in a while, played an exciting brand of hockey, and won 27 of 41 home games. That has to really help build some positive momentum, because if you're going to be successful, winning at home in front of your own fans is a good way to do it.
It's pretty impressive, considering that so many of those games, not all, but a significant amount of those games, the home advantage is split. If Toronto is in that building, and let's put the playoffs aside here, because the Sens fans stepped up and made sure that the majority of their fans were in their building. But in the regular season, most of the time, it's like 50-50 split at best between Leafs fans and Sens fans.
Sounds like Cowboy
When the Montreal
games.
Canadiens are in the building. When the Montreal Canadiens are in the building, it's a bit of a similar situation. There was a game against the Boston Bruins earlier this year. I was amazed at how many Bruins fans made the trip and dominated a particular bowl in that arena. The statistics you're bringing up here, the fact that they won all those games at home, considering what their home advantage can be like at times, I think that's pretty impressive because, and I know players are bothered by it. Like, again, Ottawa is the arena you go to because it's so accessible and so accessible tickets wise, I should say, because they have among the lowest ticket prices in the league. That's where you decide, hey, we're doing the 2-hour drive or we're taking the 4-hour train ride and we're going to watch this game in Ottawa. So I think for the Sens to impose themselves at home and win those games is big. The next step is trying to channel whatever they were able to make successful in the playoffs, getting their fans in the building and having that be a true home advantage for them.
And on a quick side note, before I go to Sam, maybe the dark side or the downside of getting a new arena at some point downtown is it probably won't be amongst the cheapest tickets in the league at that point.
No. The Senators themselves know that they need to find ways to generate revenues and have that go up and all that. And I think what's going to end up happening is obviously as it is with so many different things get more expensive. You got to pay for some stuff like that. I mean, we've seen reports out there saying that, you know what, they don't want public funds might not be needed for an arena like this. You got to be skeptical about that type of stuff. That's as much as I want to say about that. But like, I think for the price of progress is high, as my dad always says, and I wouldn't be surprised if we started seeing that once this arena gets done.
All right, Julian, I'm going to ask you a random question from one of our fans, actually, because I'm curious your answer here.
Sure.
It's a lot tougher question than I thought when I'm looking over some of the Senators in history. But Ardell asks, is Jason Spezza the greatest Senator of all time? And if the answer is no, who is it?
Daniel Alfredson exists.
Yeah,
That's why I said it's tough. As soon as I started looking at Heatley and Alfredson in that list, I was like, oh, man.
I'm not going against Daniel Alfredson, who has represented this franchise better than anybody who has ever played for the team, as far as I'm concerned. Jason Spence, obviously, I think in the Mount Rushmore of Sens is right there. He might be number 2, but for my money, especially as a guy who grew up in Eastern Canada and watched a lot of Canadiens games, watched a lot of Leafs games, watched a lot of Sens games, Daniel Alfredson to me was the ultimate ambassador for that franchise. I think it's him, and I'm not going to even pour out all these different stats to support my point. I think it's just it's him. It's Alfie. I get it.
Well, as long as you're talking about a couple players that have moved on and stayed in hockey and management and things like that, let's talk about the general manager, the job that Steve Staios has done since he stepped through the front door there.
Yeah, I think for Steve Staios, since he's come in as GM, I don't think he's wasted too much time in putting a stamp on the team. Linus Ullmark, who I alluded to earlier, getting him via trade and then signing him long term, adding in auxiliary pieces like Michael Amadio and David Perron to kind of add some veteran usefulness to the lineup and having guys who could play on the wing. The Claude Giroux saga being what it was this offseason, they still have him around for another year. I think that's an important guy for that room. We'll see what happens with Steve Staios and Shane Pinto, a young center team who I think fits really well in the middle of their lineup. But I think he's shown, and I didn't even mention the trades from last trade deadline with Fabian Zetterlund coming in and Dylan Cousins as well. He's shown that he's not afraid to make a move when necessary. My biggest question for him is, what does he have left? I shouldn't say what does he have left, but what's next for him to take this team from where they're at now to be a real playoff contender? Because right now I think he has a roster that should be good enough to make the playoffs, but considering what the top of the division looks like, considering what teams like Montreal have done in the offseason to get better, Steve Staios, I think, has to keep up with the Joneses a little bit, especially in that Atlantic division. What else is he going to do to make this team better? Is him being quiet this offseason enough to satisfy the Sens and help them get to the next level? And that's no shade to getting in Lars Eller and Jordan Spence, but that's not the big flashy move compared to landing Noah Dobson via trade, right? Like, I wonder what's next for the Ottawa Senators in terms of making moves.
Yeah, that's sort of where I was going with the follow-up to that is you know, you look at this roster and there aren't a lot of like glaring holes, but I do see your point. Like David Perron's 37, and I'm a big fan of what he can bring to a team, but he's 37. And, you know, Zetterlund is 25 now. Is he ready to be one of the marquee wingers on a team like this as they try to make the playoffs for consecutive years for the first time in a dozen years, right? That's a big deal, is to not just make it once, but is to continue to progress and move forward. And it seems like this roster is not poised for a setback. They're young. Like you mentioned, Stützle's still even coming into his own. Tkachuk feels like he's just starting to really be the guy that can carry the team, even though he was good. I'm a huge Drake Batherson fan. I love the way he plays. And Claude Giroux makes me feel old because I remember when he was playing in the AHL for the Philadelphia Phantoms and just torching us in Albany way back in the day with the River Rats. But yeah, that's kind of the point. Is I look at this and I go, I like a lot of this roster, but is there? I mean, Tkachuk is the superstar. There's no doubt. I think Jake Sanderson is pretty close to that. I wonder about Thomas Chabot though, because there was a time, he's 28 already. There was a time where we thought Thomas Chabot was the next it guy on the blue line. Like he came in and you go, this guy's going to be amazing for years. And I'm not saying he isn't a good player, but is he plateaued a little bit from where the ceiling we thought he'd be?
It's a good question. I think where he's going to be slotted now as a second pairing guy kind of fits for him. And I think if you put him with a really good defensively responsible player, I think that bodes well for him. That was the case last year where they put him with Nick Jensen on his right side, and he was putting up, I think he was putting up some pretty good performances and being in a situation where, you know, obviously he has to think about the defensive game as a defenseman, but to have someone next to him who can pick up the slack in that area, that helps him look a lot better on the ice, especially if there's moments where he does kind of mishandle the puck on the blue line or any other mishaps that he has as a player. I think for him at this stage of his career, him being a second pairing guy on this team, I think that fits well for what they need, as long as you have him with a defensively responsible guy. The next question I have for him is Nick Jensen going to be his right-hand man again this year, or is it going to be Artem Zub? Because Jake Sanderson, we know, is this team's number one defenseman. And I mentioned Jordan Spence earlier. That's a guy who, when the trade happened, I wondered, okay, he wants a bigger opportunity. He didn't get that in Los Angeles. Is he going to get that on this team? And my understanding is that I think he might get a shot playing alongside Jake Sanderson on that top pairing. And if it doesn't work for him there, where else are you going to put him? And as a result of that potential happening, you might get a reuniting of Thomas Chabot and Artem Zub. That's a pairing that's worked out in years past before for this team. That could be effective, because I think Artem Zub is a bit slept on for what he's able to do defensively and the stability that he provides. And Jake Sanderson's talked about how he's a predictable guy as a defenseman, and you want that as a good thing because you want to know what your partner is able to do when you're at the back end in situations like what Jake Sanderson goes through. So I'm very curious to know not just how much more Thomas Chabot can give, but who else they're going to play him with, and how much that'll impact his performances.
And no disrespect to Nick Jensen, but if you ended up with him because of the play of Spence, if you had Jensen on your third pair, that just says a lot about the depth on that right side. You want to hit him with because we're running out of time with Julian. You want to ask him about the last one?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Julian, something we ask all of our guests on this series is, from your outside perspective, Ottawa in this case, what do you see from the Dallas Stars going into 2025-26?
I still think of them as a cup contending team. I just hope for your sakes that they don't become the San Jose Sharks of this decade. There have been way too many teams from the Dallas Stars that have looked so good that should be competing for Stanley Cups. We know they were in the 2020 Cup final against Tampa. I picked them to win the Cup last year. I think I probably felt pretty high on them the year before that too. I'm amazed at the fact that they entered this offseason with little cap space and all these players they needed to re-sign, and Jamie Benn is still there. Jason Robertson was in trade talks. He's still there. Maverick Bourque, I thought, was like an offer sheet candidate. He's still there. Like, I get that we're kind of getting Jim Nill fatigue for GM of the year, and Bill Zito should be getting more of it, but like stuff like that proves why Jim Nill is in the higher echelon of GMing in the National Hockey League. I expect the Dallas Stars to still be a cup contending team. I just wonder, what about Winnipeg? What about Colorado? I just think for those teams have always been contenders, but Dallas at some point has to make something work, or else we're just going to start looking at them and saying what could have been. And it'll be a real damn shame considering the players that they were able to accumulate over the years. And I didn't even go in on some of their younger guys like Wyatt Johnston. Like when I was covering the Calgary Flames, Craig Conroy cited their GM. Craig Conroy cited the Dallas Stars as a model to look at. And a lot of people kind of looked back and they were like, really? Like, it's really great what they did, but they had a really great draft class. We were able to get Jason Robertson and Miro Heiskanen and Jake Ottinger. Not everyone can do that, but the point of it is the fact that they were able to accumulate these older veterans and younger players into their lineup and still find a way to be competitive and not full-on tank. And once Dallas wins the Stanley Cup, because I still think they will, watch, a whole bunch of teams, a whole bunch of GMs are going to look at Dallas and say, see, they didn't tank. They found a way to make it work after all these years. I don't know how realistic it is, but the Dallas Stars are still regarded as a high echelon, top tier team in this league. They just need to find a way to win. And I don't know if it's going to be next year, but they're really close.
The end of
Hey,
rebuilds
Julian,
in the
tell
NHL.
these two clowns at the helicopter or birds take off. Tell these two clowns in the studio there why February 3rd is an important date for you.
Oh, February 3rd is a massive day for me. So I'm in the process of putting together a book called Black Aces. It's a book that profiles a number of Black players, coaches, personalities in the game. February 3rd is the release date, and it is available for pre-order wherever you get books, whether you want to go to the big box stores or whether you want to go to a local store. You can do that now. And if you want to wait until February 3rd, you can do that too. But getting a lot of, there's a lot of great players in there, like Jerome McGinley will be in there for sure. A chapter on PK Subban, of course, Fred Brathwaite, Grant Fuhr, Sarah Nurse. I think there's going to be some players that people know about, players that people don't know as well about. I hope people enjoy it when it's out.
Awesome.
One last thing, because we have a great viewer question. Somebody you may know asked, and it's Avery. What is Julian's first game day fit of the 25-26 when preseason kicks off at the Canadian Tire Center?
Probably some suit with a turtleneck, but I'll probably be wearing Nike Air Max 90s on my shoes. I ordered a new pair the other day, the white dusty cactus ones. You can look them up and see what they look like. So something that'll fit with that.
Way more fashionable than anything that we could pull off.
Yeah.
No doubt. Julian, it's been an absolute pleasure. I wish we had more time, but we got to get to Gordon here. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll definitely have you on again. You were fantastic today, man. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Let me know,
Julian.
and I'll be glad to be back on, and please send my regards to Gord.
I will. Check him out at The Athletic. There he goes, Julian McKenzie. Great stuff covering the Senators. And up next, talk to Gord Wilson, who is one of the team broadcasters, next on DLLS. It's your turn.
All right. Thank you. Thank you.
It's hot in here today.
I have 2 minutes now, 1 minute and 50 seconds to tell you about a fantastic trip coming up here on DLS. The DLS Cowboys crew is headed to Las Vegas. That is in Nevada, which is
Nevada.
Nevada.
Yep. You will upset people of that state.
Owen. I don't care. I don't know anybody from there.
Do you want an invitation?
We're headed to Las
sometime?
Vegas. I'm going to Vegas in January. We're headed to Las Vegas with True Fan Travel for the ultimate fan experience. DLS Cowboys is taking over the Strip for an unforgettable weekend in Vegas, Nevada, and you need to be there. Join us as the Cowboys take on the Raiders. On November 17th, Monday Night Football. This all-inclusive trip includes a 3-night stay at a luxury Vegas resort, game tickets, VIP parties, exclusive events with the DLS Cowboys crew, fellow diehard fans, and much, much more. Notice how I didn't RIP John Anderson on that one.
You just did.
I'm trying to.
You just did.
No, John.
He's alive and well and kicking over on the Cowboys show.
Yeah. He had food poisoning, had to miss a whole wedding, I heard.
Did he really?
So he's catching a little Sam. But this is how Dallas does Vegas. So
did you
book
just make yourself
now
a verb?
at truefantravel.com. I did. Are the Cowboys, have they played another preseason game? Did they win?
They played on Saturday, and
lose
no, they
again?
did not.
Okay, preseason doesn't matter, but
No, it
not
doesn't.
off to a great start with this Cowboys crew. But there's also some star stuff we could talk about, which is plenty of amazing apparel, including our Jake Ottinger shirt that Sam Nestler is still waiting for to get delivered and will wear it.
I wore mine yesterday.
GM Ben, I'm talking to you.
I got it in the playoffs.
I
How do
know.
you
I
still
have one for a specific special guest, but I don't have one for
was
Sam.
it delivered when you were stuck trying
Probably when I
get
was in Denver, yeah.
to Winnipeg or to Edmonton and you couldn't?
Yes, probably. But
Hey, Lutz, did you know that Sam has trouble with travel connections?
go
Sam
check
has
out
trouble with life.
all DLS. AllDLS.com. Buy it all. Become a diehard. All the good things.
All right, let's welcome in our second guest, Gord Wilson. He is the radio color analyst for the Senators. We're thrilled to have him. And boy, Gord, was excited to have you on. Thank you very much for joining us. Welcome to the show. And let's get right into it. This Senators team, and you've been around it for a very long time, it feels like this was a real needed step this past year. We were talking about it a little bit with Julian, 7 years without a playoff appearance, now trying to make it back-to-back years for the first time in a dozen years. Great home record, which obviously in front of the home fans, even if it is a little of a mixed bag of home versus road supporters, that's such a big deal. Yeah. How much more refreshing from a broadcaster's perspective was this past season for you?
Oh, it's absolutely outstanding. I think if anybody had the imagination of sitting in my shoes for the last, as you said, long timer here. I've been with the Senators since day one, so I've seen an awful lot of ups and downs. And certainly last year was, without question, as you said, a huge breath of fresh air. When you miss the playoffs 7 straight years, you begin to feel like you're part of the Buffalo Sabres organization.
Yes.
Shots fired, right over the bow here. Can you imagine, though? Can you imagine being part of that broadcast crew or that fan base in Buffalo where it's stretched into 13 seasons and there doesn't seem to be any hope whatsoever? Certainly from an Ottawa perspective, when Brady Tkachuk took over, and he has taken over this team, this city, and times the league, I think we all knew that there was going to be a little bit of growing pain, but then a lot of gain from those growing pains. And Brady has led by example and showed why he is probably one of the quintessential leaders and power forwards in the National Hockey League. He's a follow me over the cliff kind of guy, and that's what the Senators did. But they had a lot of different moving parts. There were a few guys who had career years, and I caught the tail end of Julian's segment. And let me first start by saying what a breath of fresh air he's been in the nation's capital. He's just been absolutely marvelous. He's got a great writing style and skill, but as we just heard, he's a fabulous broadcaster as well, right? Kind of scary when you think about it. All that being said, watching the Senators team do what it did this season and get to the playoffs, they didn't do an awful lot in the offseason, but the fact that the 6 games that they played in postseason is going to go or should go, and I think the management is hoping for this, an awful long way in advancing even further next season. They need to get there, though, first, and they've had a history of having poor starts. But Craig, you know as well as anybody, you don't win a Stanley Cup in October and November, but you can certainly lose the chance to play for it, right? Their start has to be huge. There's no question about that, and we shall see, obviously. But the great strides taken despite a first-round loss to the Leafs this year.
Hey, Gord, I have a guy that I played with. He's pretty well known, apparently. His name is Bob Gainey. I don't know if you've heard of him. He had said to me, yeah, you know him. He's not far from you guys down the road. Actually, I don't know where he is right now. He's in some bar in Florida.
I sat beside him at a bar in downtown Ottawa many years ago.
Okay, probably sitting with Scott Burnside somewhere. One of the things that Bo had said long time ago, you ever get involved, in this sport, in the game and stuff like that, one thing you make sure you do is you surround yourself with great people. And
Yep.
I was just talking, brought up Julian, about Steos, right, being the general manager. And I look, he's got Dave Poulin in there, Jacques Martin, as far as on the coach's advisor. He's done exactly that, hasn't he? I look at Dave and, being part of Toronto and an assistant general manager and, all those things that they bring. It just sounds like from a management standpoint, he's doing things the right way there.
Yeah, absolutely. You're only as good as those around you, right? You knew that as a player, and certainly from a management perspective here's a rookie general manager coming into the league and coming into a situation where his team now has not made the playoffs in 7 straight years. You mentioned Jacques Martin. I think it's a huge plus, and it's important to follow up on that, Craig, because Jacques obviously has a couple of Stanley Cups as an assistant coach with the Pittsburgh Penguins. He has a style of coaching that will never go away, right? And this team, for the longest time, and for 7 straight years missing the playoffs, their biggest problem was playing defensive hockey, playing on the other side of the puck. There certainly has been and still will be a lot of guys who can score, but they needed to prevent goals from being scored on them. Steve's first move was to go out and acquire a goaltender who had won a Vezina Trophy just 2-3 seasons ago, and Linus Ullmark, and go from there. And certainly the presence of Linus and the acumen, the resume that Linus has and will continue to have, just boosted the confidence of everybody involved. And when you have a goaltender who can stop the puck and a coach, and I'll get to Travis in just a sec, but Travis certainly has, I'll get to him right now. Travis Green has certainly, he's certainly got a background for defensive style hockey and defense first. Knows the true value of a successful team that has to play at both ends of the ice. And that got ingrained right from the get-go. And it started to get ingrained a little bit more when Jacques took over halfway through the season before. When DJ got fired in December, Jacques took over. And it was tough for him because he was going through some health issues, primarily shoulder injuries. And bad knee, bad hips, this, that, and everything else. So he was unable to get on the ice, if you can imagine that. So his assistants did all the practice work. Jacques did all the preaching and did the strategy stuff behind the bench. But he also did, and part of his preaching and defense and main message was ingraining defensive hockey into everybody. So it certainly helped. And I think, 2 wise moves by Steve, 3 wise moves. And you mentioned Dave Poulin being hired right off the get-go. Keeping Jacques as a consultant was a huge plus as well. And obviously acquiring Linus Ullmark. And you know what? Steve saw something in Travis Green that obviously was a huge plus because he got the team to the promised land for the first time in 7 years.
Yeah, Gord, I want to talk to you exactly about that playoff series with Toronto. I was a believer in this Ottawa team. I actually picked them to win that series, a little bit for Ottawa and a little bit because of who they were playing in Toronto. But I'm just curious, that series, I mean, they lose those 2 games in overtime to go down 3-0, which could have been flipped to 2-1, could have been a much closer series. I want to know from your perspective how close that series actually was. And then on the other side of it, how much belief was there still in Ottawa when they were down 3-0, and especially when they won those 2 games to make it into a Game 6?
Well, certainly when the team made the playoffs, there was no belief, really. It was just, jubilation throughout the city that they were back into playoff hockey. And it's the dreaded Leafs, who the team in the past has had issues with. But this team started out in postseason play with, I believe, 12 or 13. I'll say 12, but it might have been 13 players who were, for lack of a better expression, playoff virgins. They did not have one playoff game under their belt, and that included Brady, 500-plus games in the NHL. That included Thomas Chabot, 500-plus games in the NHL without a playoff game. And you could really see the difference between the Leafs and the Senators in Game 1 based on experience. The Senators looked like a nervous team. They played like a nervous team, and the end result, what was it, 6-1, 6-2? Yep. The end result was a nervous team. But the switch flipped after that first game, everybody then had some playoff experience. And I talked to a bunch of players afterwards, and they said, you know what, we just got to go and play hockey now, not worry about where we are as far as the season is concerned, but just go out and play hockey. And they did. And obviously, they fell behind after losing 2 straight in overtime. And as you said, down 0-3. But then they had a real belief in themselves that they could play and keep up with the Leafs, a seasoned team, right? That had a lot of playoff experience. It was that one game. That's all they needed to really turn the series around. And while they didn't finish the job, they made a series out of it. So, as I said earlier, I think those 6 playoff games, and it was a relatively quiet offseason, those 6 playoff games are going to go a long, long way in possibly helping this team advance further this year.
Much more with Gord about the Sens, and we'll talk a little Stars too here in just a moment on DLLS. But before we get to that segment, let's talk about being a diehard. Now, the $36 sale for the Cowboys training camp, which broke, they're not in Oxnard anymore, back at the Star getting ready for a couple more weeks before they start the NFL season. There still is a diehard sale going on, because if you scan that QR code, I believe on the website it said $48, which is no more sale at all. Yeah, 48. See, he jumped the gun as if I didn't pay attention and do the prep.
Do you mind your business in there?
Our director of content doesn't know what he's talking about, or he does, but he didn't know that we knew what we were talking about. $48 is still a very good discount. It's not quite 50%. It's not quite 55% like that training camp sale, but it's still a very good deal. That would give you a full year of being a diehard before the regular season begins for both hockey and basketball, and the full NFL season all through next offseason, and the end of the regular season, maybe playoffs for the Rangers and into next year. So really good time to sign up to be a diehard. If you scan the QR code right near Luds' fist there, you can go to our website, sign up, and when you do, you'll get a free t-shirt of your choice. I happen to be wearing one of those today, which is part of the Dallas collection. It's the Nolan Ryan Giving It the Business to Robin Ventura, 30 years ago, by the way. Look at that collection. That's the most recent one we came out with. We'll see Luds in studio again next week. I'd imagine he will be wearing that Dallas versus all y'all shirt at some point. And of course, this guy writes a little bit. You're still talking about Seinfeld over here.
I don't know what we're talking about.
Yep. But you write, you're doing your weekly recaps or roundups. We have stuff coming on some of the players you've been talking to.
Exclusive interviews, yeah.
Yep. We don't know when that'll be, but at some point. Sean's got writing in the works. We've got Tim and Jeff and Clarence for the other. It's well worth your time. Sign up to be a diehard today. Get in the Discord. We had Discord questions yesterday for Matt DeFranks when he was here on the show. All right, let's bring Gord back in. Boy, Gord, this is such an interesting change, and I wanted to ask you about that. Before you guys even made the playoffs last year, you were an active buyer at the trade deadline. Was that a refreshing change of pace, just that and alone, going after trying to bolster your roster versus being sellers at the deadline? Oh, I think Gordy's on mute. There we go. Go ahead, Gordon. You're good.
Yeah, no, without question, it was a refreshing change, to say the least. But at the same time, it allowed management to tell not just the players, but the city that they had a real belief in what the current team or that current team could do, and so to make additions instead of subtractions like they have done in the past. It just boosted the confidence inside the locker room and obviously throughout the city. This city has been pining for playoff hockey for a number of years, obviously, and successful playoff hockey. And look, we've been spoiled in this city. And as I said earlier, being with this team since day one, since 1992, saw the first few years of being very, very lean. And then we went through a stretch of 11 straight years of playoff hockey and a Stanley Cup final in 2007. When you fall on hard times and you hear the word rebuild, and you go nowhere with it, it can be very, very frustrating. We all know that wins attract fans. And for the longest time, this team wasn't winning enough. You had mentioned at the start of this interview the home record, ninth best in the National Hockey League this past season, ninth best home record, and it got them to postseason play. So, they had a rejuvenation without question. And I think when players get told by management that we believe in the core and we believe in some of the external parts here, but we're going to add a few more. Fabian Zetterlund is one that comes to mind immediately. Huge plus. And you look long term here then and think, okay, yeah, we've got more young players who can play at this level, and that just can only add to the confidence moving forward.
Gord, why didn't Jacob Chychrun work out? Was it just a financial thing? I mean, when you hear him talk, he says, "I didn't trade myself." It sounds like he wanted to be back, but I just look at, as you say, as this team is taking a step, moving toward better and better, and hopefully getting deeper and deeper in the playoffs. I don't know. He looks like he'd be a pretty good defenseman back there for me.
Yeah, without question. Great question as well, and a legitimate one as well.
That's all he does, Gord.
Yeah, great questions, right? Yeah. You know what? For Jacob, there was the financial side of things, right? I think when I can't remember how many goals he had. Did he have 17 or 18 in his one season?
He had 18. Yeah, I think he had 18, and then he got 20 last year.
And he got 20 last year, and he got off to a tremendous start last season. There's no question he's got a tremendous shot, can score offensively. Yeah, I think he also led the team, though, in his 1 year as a minus player, right? So if I'm not mistaken, he did wear the green jacket. And look, we just talked about the emphasis on strong defensive hockey. He's got tremendous offense. He's just a great hockey player. There's no question about that. And yes, he can play defense, but I didn't think... There was, right from the get-go, there was some uncertainty on what side of the ice he was going to play. And there was a lot of talk about Thomas Chabot and Jacob Chychrun being a pair, and Thomas Chabot, a natural left shooting defenseman who had played the left side his entire career with the Senators. Was he going to move over? Or was it going to be Jacob, who had, at times with Arizona, moved to the right side? There was confusion almost, Craig. There was confusion almost right from the get-go on what was going to happen, and it confused both players, I think. And I think it left a bad taste in the mouths of both players. Both players got along very well. There's no question about that. But I don't think it sat well between players and coaches. And as a result, I don't think we got the best of Jacob Chychrun. It's interesting, because Chick goes off to Washington and has a tremendous year with the Capitals and helps them get into postseason play and have a terrific year. Thomas Chabot's coming off his best year of his career. He had an absolutely fantastic season. Well, the best one of his career. Excuse me, in my opinion. And he was paired up, and Julian touched on this in his segment. He was paired up with Nick Jensen. And that's going to be a key here for Ottawa. Nick Jensen to be healthy and stay paired with Thomas. Imperative, in my opinion. Yes, can he play with Artem Zub? Absolutely. But I think he's best suited with Nick Jensen. So there just probably wasn't enough room for both players. And obviously, Chick goes on to sign this massive contract. And the Senators already have two defensemen who are making over $8 million a year. And Chabot. Yeah, money player.
Don't mind the tornado in Wisconsin. He'll be blown away. But there's still two others. Sam, you want to hit him, or do you want me to?
I've got only 64 degrees here.
I'm so jealous. Angry. It's like 105 down here right now. Let me ask this real quick, because as you said, Goro, you have wire to wire here of the Ottawa Senators from an expansion franchise to where they are today, which means that you've had the pleasure of being around and working with Rick Bowness, who we were really lucky to have here in Dallas. And look, it's not an exclusive opinion, but I think he's truly one of the great gentlemen in the game of hockey. such a great guy. He, even in his 60s, has such incredible energy. I remember when he was coaching Dallas, after all the media stuff in the morning skate, he would change and go run the Katy Trail near the rink in downtown Dallas. And as I was walking to my car, I'd see him going to the trail to run and go, well, if he, who's a couple decades my senior, can go running, I better go for a run when I get home before this game tonight. And what a great human being. I know he was put in a really rough spot because expansion rules back then are not what they are today in the NHL.
Right.
But tell me a little bit about your Rick Bowness experiences.
Well, I wouldn't have lasted 34 years in my seat if it wasn't for Rick Bowness. I can tell you that right off the get-go. Rookie broadcaster, basically. I was covering CFL football at the time when the Senators were born. So I got to know Rick very, very well, obviously, through the first couple of seasons as he tenured with the club as their first ever NHL coach. He showed more patience and had more patience for myself and our broadcast partner, Dean Brown, than anybody I've ever worked with. He was absolutely, terminology, little things like half ice or half boards or whatever, things that were new to me. He explained everything. Best story I can offer on Rick Bowness was, and look at his first year, the team played 84 games in 1992-93. They won 10 of them. 10, 70, and 4 was the record. But every day, Rick was there to offer condolences, pats on the back, hang in there, we're going to get better, blah, 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 all that. As positive as can be. You said all the right things when describing Rick Bowness. Without question, salt of the earth and one of the finest gentlemen I've ever met. And the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Ryan Bowness, an assistant and then associate general manager with the Senators, has moved on to become assistant general manager with the New York Islanders. Couldn't be happier for him. The whole family is absolutely outstanding. Quick story on Rick. We were in Florida. They had lost, I think, 6-1 to Tampa on Saturday night. We were in Florida for a Tuesday night game, so they had some time off. We were staying at the old Stouffer Vanoy. Craig, I'm guessing you remember that place in St. Petersburg. And they had a pier not too far, and we had a day off, and there was a pier that a bunch of us reporters walked down to, and Rick, Alain Vigneault, and E.J. McGuire, rest his soul, the three coaches, were on this pier, and we sort of sit beside them. They got a table full of beer bottles, and they call us over. They'd been there a while, and they call us over, and anything off the record you want to ask, go ahead and ask. So we just get into a hockey discussion. Well, and to this day, we call it the beer bottle breakout. Rick has got beer bottles here, there, and everywhere, and he's going, when we want to do this, and he's moving the Molson Canadian over here, we do that. And then the Coors Light goes over. Oh, it was just classic Rick, because he just wanted to help, right? And vent at the same time. Can't say enough good things about Bones, for sure.
I think I fell off that pier.
No doubt.
Hey, and speaking of E.J. McGuire, what the hell happened to Pierre McGuire?
Oh, good question. I don't know. I think he's in Boston, and I think he's doing some podcasts. Didn't last too long with the Senators, but he got paid, and good man as well. He was fun to work with, for sure, and an assistant coach with Ottawa and a scout in the early years as well.
Gord, before we ask you about the Stars, I'm going to ask you about a college hockey player. I know, shocking, but
you can't help yourself, can you?
I just had to get it in there. But not only a college hockey player, but a North Dakota alumni.
Oh, you got lots of attention now.
Craig Ludwig. Jake Sanderson, his performance at Four Nations really broke him out to kind of the rest of the hockey world. But just looking at his stats, the guy finished third on the team in points last year. Did anyone expect him to be this good?
Yep. Yes, 100%. Well, I can tell you DJ Smith absolutely did. His first game in a preseason matchup against the Leafs. So the Senators had a doubleheader. They played two. They played one at 1 o'clock, and their second split squad played at 7. And Jake was in the first game, and he got undressed early in the first period and knew that he had made the mistake, but his recovery time after the mistake that was made was split second like, okay? And I talked to DJ immediately after the game, and DJ was quick to say, this guy is going to get better every period that he goes along here through preseason and regular season play. And he has done just that. I had players during the first year, his first year, a couple of seasons ago, teammates, veteran teammates say he's going to win not one Norris Trophy, but many Norris Trophies. And you're not wrong in saying he had an eye-opening debut on the world stage in the Four Nations. Wasn't expected to be there, right? He was a late fill-in. Now going to the orientation camp for Team USA. I actually thought you were going to go in the direction of Shane Pinto. But another great college standout, right? And he too has been invited to the U.S. Orientation Olympic camp. So, and coming off a career year. But Jake is just, he's going to be a lot of fun to watch over the years. He came to camp last year, and you could tell, like, he's as dedicated as anybody I'll ever know in the gym for. I think he turns 23 this summer, if I'm not mistaken. But he's as dedicated as anybody. But he came to camp, and I knew who it was, obviously, but his neck was so thick, and it hasn't taken him that long, 200 NHL games, to become NHL hardened. You know, he's got the heavy stick. He just a sense of anticipation. I can't say enough good things about him as a person, but also as a hockey player. And he's one of the many players on this team that has a father that has had a long career at the NHL. Oh, hang on here, Craig. Go the other way. Yeah, there. 7-6. What?
Like he says, 76 points this year.
Oh, that's what you're predicting. Yeah. Okay. What do you have? 57 last year, including 11 goals. And you know what? He got off to I'll say he got off to a lousy start. His start was very slow, and he self-admitted that he had Four Nations on his mind throughout the first couple of months, and he put a lot of pressure on himself, and it backfired. And when he found out, I think, what was it, in December when the team was announced and he wasn't on it, he said, time to just play, time to be myself and just play. He settles in, he gets his game on track, and he looked extremely good along the way, and then gets the call to go and play in Four Nations, and we all saw what he could do. In a best on best tournament. I'll be not shocked at all if he's on Team USA for the Olympics in February.
All right, we
Shane
have
Pinto, another University of North Dakota, Hobie Baker finalist.
You're not looking at the clock at all, are you?
I don't care about the
All
clock.
right,
Let's
one
talk
more
about
for
college
Gord.
hockey.
But before we do, I have to say thank you to our television viewers today on the multiple platforms. Make sure to like and subscribe here on the pod. Check out alldls.com.
Cole Caulfield won the Hobie that year, in case you're
God,
asking.
it's been a year, Gord. You think he'd know when the clock was there. Unfortunately, we're almost out of time, and it's gone by way too fast. It's just been a delight to have you on. But one of the things we do with each of our guests during this summer series is we like to get your perspective, not inside the Dallas Stars orbit, of what you think of the Stars right now as they head into the 25-26 season.
Well, you know what? Change of direction, right? Behind the bench. I think that's going to be the biggest key here. And can Glenn Gullickson get the job done? It's not very often you are a head coach of a hockey club and 3 consecutive years you go to a conference final and then get fired afterward, right? But you know what? That's also sort of the history of Pete DeBoer. Glenn I don't know him all that well. I've had a couple of drinks with him once in Edmonton, but he knows what he's doing, obviously, and he has the experience. So my guess is that there won't be a whole lot changed in Dallas and the perennial winning team. So, if you're looking for a prediction, I don't think there's any doubt that this is a playoff bound team. And again, all you ask is you make it to the dance and see what can happen.
All right. One last thing for you. If you could pluck a player off the Stars roster, don't worry about salary cap, and put him into the Sens lineup, who would you pick and why?
Who would I pick and why? Well, this is a team. I'm just going to very quickly punch up. We can't have Matt Duchene because he's been here and done that. really didn't want to be here and do that. I would take Jason. Yeah, it's a good question because I'm looking at Jason Robertson and Wyatt Johnston. Johnston, as far as his age is concerned, he's a few years younger than Jason. But this is the Senators are a team that needs to score some goals, more goals. And we talked at length about how well they're playing defensively. They need to score goals. Their shooting percentage was, I think, 31st in the NHL last year at 5-on-5. Yep, I would go with Jason Robertson. If I could take any player off Dallas's roster, Jason would be my guy.
Love to see Nico Rantanen under Brady Tkachuk.
Yeah, can you imagine that? Well, Gordo, it's I mean this when I say this. It's been a pleasure to have you on. The half hour goes by way too fast. We are out of time, but thank you so much for carving out some time for us today. Really great insights, and of course, look forward to seeing you when the Sens roll into Dallas this year.
Looking forward to it as well, fellas. Thanks for having me. This was a lot of fun. And yeah, the time goes by in a hurry, but it's ending just at the perfect time. I got 2 golden retrievers who are dying to get outside to pee.
It's funny you say that. We got to let Sam outside too. So there you go.
There you go. Okay.
Gordo, thanks so much.
Gord.
Enjoy the rest of your offseason.
Cheers, boys. Salut.
There he goes. Gord Wilson from the Ottawa Senators radio broadcast. Luds,
I went before the show.
that doesn't mean anything, does it?
No.
We're done with another show. We've got Pittsburgh tomorrow with Josh Getzoff, their TV radio broadcaster.
Oh, we have a
and
super chat.
we also have Josh Yohe from The Athletic, who has been churning out some really great stuff covering the Penguins over there. And we have a super chat, Luds.
Luds.
Bing bong.
Oh, there's a real one.
GM
Bing
Ben
bong.
at $2 super chat. You remember what that one is? Brendan Smith, the year after the Cup.
Brendan Smith signed with Columbus on a tryout.
Y'all are late to the staff meeting, and that's why we went into overtime, because we're just
Let's just keep this going.
Buddy,
then,
we're trying to get out of the staff meeting as long as we
Luds,
can.
you going to be on that meeting?
Well, what we should do then is we ought to move our shows to 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Then we'd make every meeting.
There you go.
That's right. There you have it. Penguins tomorrow, Toronto Maple Leafs on Thursday, and Detroit Red Wings on Friday. We got a great lineup the rest of the week. Sean will be here Thursday, Friday. Sam is here with us still tomorrow, and he just told Ben in the chat we're not going to the meeting. For Elijah, for Luds, for Sam, I'm Owen. Huge thank you to Julian McKenzie from The Athletic
That's fun
and
today.
Gord Wilson from the Senators. 2 awesome guests. We hope you're enjoying our series. Keep on rolling toward training camp here on DLLS.
We all silly like the mayor.